Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first of a series for Unstoppable Together. This is a video series where we go and interview members in the community who cannot be on webinars as easily, but we still want to share their stories because they are as important to our dialogue as anyone. So I will first introduce myself. I am Malik Gooch. You may know me as I am typically the host of the Unstoppable Together webinars. I am also the communications coordinator for CCDC. And today, for our first video in this new series, we are very pleased to have a Miss Sheryl Emery. So would you mind introducing yourself and your interpreter as well?
First of all, let me introduce our interpreter today. Our interpreter today is Elijah A.S. Sign name Elijah. And his job is to help facilitate communication between the two of them. My name is Sheryl Emery, and I work with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. I identify as deaf.
Let me get the first question. We want to ask you personally. We want you to imagine the future, and what does an accessible future look like to you, and how do we get there together?
An accessible future for me looks like being fully included. Making sure that people who are deaf, hard of hearing, deaf, blind, have full communication access. That's really primary. But in terms of the disability community itself, often we are not the first in mind when there are new programs or new activities being developed. This is where I like an afterthought. So for me, instead of being an afterthought, I like to make sure that we're in the forethought of planning activities, other things, services that are inclusive from the beginning. Now we've got, but let's start with, that's what inclusion looks like for me. That's what accessibility looks like for me in the future.
Okay, so just more services that help everybody and not be like an afterthought.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Forethought, inclusion, planning.
Gotcha. Alongside that, what's one change you'd love to see in the next 5 years even? You know, we're rapidly moving as it is now. A lot of regulations have changed. A lot of rules have changed. So, and a lot more people are becoming like conscious about these issues and are willingly helping their neighbor, even if they don't have that issue themselves. They want to make sure everyone's included. What would you see could be changed in the next 5 years?
I would like to see us moving forward instead of moving back right now. I'm afraid we're moving backward. In 5 years, my vision will really be to make sure that ADA is truly enforced. But even more so, I think before we start to talk about enforcement of ADA laws, rules, I just think it's important that we start to change attitudes. You can enforce attitude change. And we can encourage those attitudes to trying to change. Beginning with acceptance. Often we are required to adapt for general society. But we don't teach society how to adapt and to accept us. We don't talk about disabilities. We try to put kids in normal school programs. How do you prepare the children who don't have disabilities? How do you prepare the teachers who don't have this? And that's where we really need to start in terms of changing attitudes. But as far as 5 years from now, what I would like to see, I think it's going to take longer than 5 years to get what I want. I just said that's going to take more than 5 years.
No, that's a very true statement. And I can also agree that changing attitudes and it probably would start with school systems explicitly because attitude is developed very early on. So trying to make it a scene as soon as even say 7 to 8 would greatly change that. I agree.
Even before 7 to 8.
Even before? No,
I give an example.
Yes, ma'am.
We know from research that attitudes about race develop at young 3. And I can give you a good example of that. When my son was 3, he was at a daycare program. And he came crying, "Mommy, the kids don't want to play with me because I'm black." That was 3. Now he has a daughter. The same thing happened to her just a few weeks ago. So we have to start changing attitudes. Not only about race, but about disability also.
Yes. Because there is that large intersection for a majority of society. So just only having one focus is not a good idea. So alongside that actually leads into our next question. Who do you think needs to be at the table to make that vision real for you?
We do.
You do?
We do. People with disabilities absolutely have to be at the table. And often we are not. So you have to bring in people with a variety of disabilities at the table. Our lawmakers, our administrators, our teachers, our neighbors. We need to be at the table. A very inclusive table.
And to lead into that, you say people with disabilities do need to be at the table. Why is it important that people with disabilities lead the way in creating accessible communities and policies?
We know what's best for us.
Yeah. I mean, I never doubt that. Me personally, I fully understand it, but we like to just describe it and explain it further out for others as well. But no, I full-heartedly agree. The only way you can really help anybody is by also having that group represent themselves.
I work here, CDPHE, and I've been here for 3 years. As far as I know, I'm the only deaf person who works. And by being here, by being at the table, I can see the process of how CDPHE has evolved. Things that we're not previously aware of. I have a fantastic team, but it's taken us time to get to this point. When I first started working here, they knew they had to make accommodations. And they were willing to make those accommodations. But it goes further than making those accommodations sometimes, okay? The little things can sometimes be the biggest thing. For example, people learn things walking down the hall, talking with each other. But as a deaf person, I don't have access to that kind of communication where people, oh, I heard this, such. I don't get that information. And that's how interpreters hears it and informs me, okay? But people don't normally think about how they learn, how they acquire information. And that's part of everything that we learn is not on the computer. Everything that we learn is not in a book. They've learned through experience. Okay? So, lived experience. They're having lived experience too, working with a deaf person.
So, I do agree with that, is that largely speaking, a ton of information is gained through day-to-day life, and making sure that's accessible to everybody is always a good route. Has there been any like way to assist you besides just Mr. Elijah here, your interpreter, to like recognize that in the hallways and have like a great time with your compatriots here? And I'm really bad with acronyms. It's PhD. Sorry.
Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
Okay.
CDPHE.
Okay. It's a lot of letters.
Alphabet too.
But like just before that, so has there been any way that that's become more normalized, as you mentioned, that people talk to get their information? Has there been any ways besides Mr. Elijah here that they have made any accommodations to assist you in that day-to-day life as working here?
Now they've become aware that I don't always get that information. I think they're more sensitive to share. Okay, so that was telling me so-and-so is off this weekend. That's something you normally not announce in staff meeting.
No, that's just like water cooler talk typically.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's become more sensitive in sharing that kind of information with me than in the past. Because they know I don't get that information. Water cooler talk. I don't get it. Okay. But every once in a while, when Elijah is with me, we're in the break room or something like that, I'll be able to pick up all those things. But honestly, the staff, the administrators, become more sensitive to making sure I'm doing it. We have more other accessibility. When I first began, when we would have agency-wide meetings, and a lot of it was spoken, we never had captions. So now, I've been here 3 years, they put the caption information on the TV so I can follow the interpreter, or I can follow the captions on the TV. And they've learned how to do it appropriately. Okay? Other things I've been provided with in terms of access, telephone access, video phone, so that I can communicate with the public through video phones. If I have to make calls out in the public, then I have a video phone for that. When the telephone rings, of course, my lights flash on and off to let me know that the telephone is ringing. And basic building and accessibility safety things are already in the bill. Okay.
That is honestly great. Dude, that's amazing. And that helps everyone at the end of the day. But we have one last question, and just answer as honestly as you can. What would you say to someone who's just starting to claim their voice in this movement? A lot of intersectionality is now being seen either in the world or through our participants with Unstoppable Together. And a lot of people are now connecting their identities. So as an advocate yourself, what is like a piece of advice you would give to those young new voices within our community?
This journey is not any soon.
No, ma'am, not.
That's the first thing I would say. This journey, being an advocate, is not easy. There have been times when personally I felt, why can't I be normal? And when I say normal, it's like, why am I always fighting? Why do I always have to fight? Sometimes I just want to not have to fight for what I want. Sometimes I just want to be me and not have to represent. But we got so much left to do. And we need people who are willing to fight, people who are willing to sacrifice, people who are willing to stand up and say, this is not right. This has to be fixed. And there are going to be days when you win. And there are going to be days when you don't win. and you live to fight another day. Make sure you know your information. Get out there and make contact with other people. If you can't change the system yourself, who are the people who can help you change the system? Okay? But connect with each other. And that helps to really win the battle. But sometimes it's just not easy. You can see now where the things we fought for the last 30 years under ADA are now being people are not fighting, or the system is not supporting us the way that we want it. And we just live to fight another day. It's not going to be easy.
It's fun, but it's a good one at least.
Amen.
And with that, that is our last question. I very much appreciate your time for helping us here. And with that, we will be continuing this series with other participants. But if you would like to learn more about Miss Sheryl today, you can follow us on social medias such as Blue Sky, Facebook, LinkedIn, and our own YouTube channel that you are watching this video on at CCDC Online. Or you can also visit our website at www.ccdconline.org. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all again soon.